Notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coast-Star, the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar, and the Asbury Park Press on December 7, 2016, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you mind remaining standing for a moment of silence? Remember our troops abroad and their families here at home.
And also one of our residents who passed away, Ben Hawkins, good friend, very active in the recreation department. So please remember him also.
Thank you. The council will join me on the dais. Thank you. So, as most everyone knows, over the last year, Belmar now provides policing services for Lake Como as well as Belmar. So I've asked the members of the Lake Como Council to also be with us tonight. So I'd like to ask them to come up and join us. Doug Whitty, Holly Skull, Kevin Higgins, and Ginny Kropak. Thank you all very much. Also, before we start, I want to recognize some important individuals with us today. We have our prosecutor, Steve Schuler. Police director from Neptune City, Eddie Kirschenbaum. Former chief of police, Tommy Palmisano. Former chief of police in the front row, Dick Lynch. Councilman Kevin Lynch. Where did that go? Our former council president here in Belmar and the 2017 Citizen of the Year, Pat Provenzano. And also just want to recognize just north of us the chief of the Avon by the Sea Police Department, Terry Mahon. Also off, I apologize. So before we do get started, I do want to mention that we truly are blessed in Belmar with having an outstanding police department. I go so far to say that I don't think you'll find a finer police department throughout the state of New Jersey. And whatever they get dealt, whether it's large crowds in the summer or some challenging activity in the winter, they're always up to the task, absolute professionals, and again, we're blessed as a community to have this outstanding team here. And I want to just mention who they're led by. So they're led by our Chief of Police, Drew Heisman. Captain Tommy Cox. Captain Tina Scott. She's clearly the more popular. And of course, Lieutenant Mike Camp. So with that, we are doing 2 promotions today, from patrolman to sergeant, and making one a brand new patrolman here in Belmar as well. So with that, I need a resolution. I'd like to offer a resolution appointing Patrick McGill, police officer for the Borough of Belmar. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Where's Patrick? Patrick, come on up. Well, let's reverse. Sorry. There you go. Okay. So just put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Patrick McGill,
I, Patrick McGill,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey.
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties as
all the duties as
patrolman of the Belmar Police Department
patrolman of the Belmar Police
to
Department
the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I don't see blood.
So to give you a little history about Patrick, Patrick was born in Brielle, but pretty much was raised in Belmar, moved to Belmar in 2003. He's one of 5 siblings, is that correct? He's the second oldest. Attended Manasquan High School in 2012. Graduated from Quinnipiac, Connecticut in 2016 with a bachelor's in criminal justice. He was hired by Belmar as a SLEO 2 in May of this year. Congratulations, Patrick.
Next person I'd like to bring up, first I'll offer a resolution. I offer to appoint Ryan Nolan as a sergeant of Belmar Police Department. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ryan? Where's Ryan? Callie, you're up. All right. What's on the Bible? Repeat after me. I, Ryan Nolan,
I, Ryan Nolan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the State of New Jersey,
and the State of New Jersey.
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people,
I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all duties
all duties
Sergeant of the Belmar Police Department
sergeant of the Belmar Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Chief.
Many of you already know Ryan, but to give you some history with Sergeant Nolan. He was hired in 2003 as a patrolman. Prior to being hired, he has 5.5 years as being a Marine. He was crew chief for Marine One under President Bush and President Clinton. He is a rifle instructor, handgun instructor, crash instructor, investigator, and he's the active shooter instructor for our active shooter co-op with other towns.
right, that's it. Thanks for everyone for, oh, wait. There's one more. It's not the tallest Lynch. So I'd like to offer a resolution appointing Christopher Lynch, Sergeant, Belmar Police Department.
Second.
All in favor? Chris? I, Christopher Lynch, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey.
of the State of New Jersey.
I will bear true faith and allegiance,
I bear
true faith and
faith and
allegiance
allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under authority of the people,
and I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all duties
all duties
as Sergeant of the Belmar Police Department
as Sergeant of the Belmar Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
And I'll get my kids whatever they want for Christmas. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Chris was born and raised in Belmar. Many of you already know Chris. Why on duty and off duty, he's always around. He was hired as a SLEO Class 1 in 1992. In 1993, he was hired as a Class 2. He was hired full-time in 1994. He was assigned to 2.5 years in the Detective Bureau from 1995 to 1998. He's a rifle instructor, a field training officer, handgun instructor. He is married to Brittany, who also was a dispatcher here many years ago, and with 3 children. Congratulations, Chris.
All right, so we're going to take a little break so everyone can go to where they want to go, unless you want to sit through a council meeting.
Stay,
All right, next up is our workshop. For workshop discussion, this is for property 807 to 809 11th Avenue. Who's going to be making a presentation on that?
The new minutes.
Council President?
Rod, here's some presents.
Oh, sure.
Where would you like us to
Right in the front.
stand? All right, so sorry, I'm just trying to pull up. I have our architect couldn't be here tonight, but she's going to kind of try and sit in here on a Skype connection if we can make it work. Yeah, so should we stand back here by the microphone?
April, do you need their names? Could you give your names to our clerk here so we could?
Sure. I'm Randall Newman. This is my brother.
I'm Jonathan Newman, and our parents are right over here, Marvin Newman and Patricia Newman.
And you're the owners of the property?
We are the owners. So we are going to start. We have some packets for the council. Can I bring them up?
Sure. Hope so. Need one here for the mayor too. Here's some extras of help.
Yeah, actually, no, I'll give it to you when we're done, but. Great. So, oh, wait a minute. I forgot to introduce one person here.
Give your name and.
Sure. My name is William Jensen, the design engineer for the project.
Thank you.
No problem.
So just a little background on this. These two properties that we're discussing tonight have been in the family for over 50 years. And a long succession of family members have lived in the town. And we are looking, as probably anyone that's familiar with this property knows, these are older buildings, fairly architecturally insignificant, built during, some of them around the turn of the century. The rest of it was during the Depression. So they're kind of a mishmash of kind of styles. But we are looking to replace them with the new structures, and we want to, the last picture in your packet is, shows an aerial view of the property outlined in red, showing its relationship by the marina and across from the marina tower there.
Yeah, there's a couple other different aerial views from different angles if anyone's interested in seeing of the existing.
So the first page of your packet shows the survey of the current property showing the existing buildings. And then the second page is the proposed site plan for the redevelopment that was done by Mr. Jensen. And we are proposing to replace the existing 5 buildings with 2 buildings that contain townhouses with a total of 8 units. And we think that we've had an architect draw some preliminary designs for what we'd like to put in. And we have some, is she, let me see if everybody's connected. Allison, are you on here? Okay, great. We're, can we have her online as part of the record, or just in case she's going to be listening, and if anyone has any questions for her?
I guess you'll need her name.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Allison?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Just state your name and what you do.
I'm Allison Paul. I'm an architect with Lazard Design.
Okay. So, Allison is the one that did these drawings. So, we have two boards with us. Do you have an easel here? I guess.
No, we do not.
No. Here, I can. All right, so we'll hold them up. So these are just a preliminary drawing of what we were proposing. We have basically what we're going to have is 2 fairly identical buildings with 4 units of townhouses here, and they're modern style. We try to keep within the redevelopment plan as much as possible. The one thing that the redevelopment plan tends to do is mostly it mostly specifies like traditional structures with a peaked roof. Because of our location close to the marina, we wanted to take advantage of the view of the beautiful marina and the sunset on the river, and so we wanted to make a roof deck. So instead of a peaked roof, we did a roof deck, which would have a nice view of the river. Because there's we're actually on the corner there, we have 7-Eleven and the Raging Cajun. which at the lower levels block the view. So we want to go up to the roof where you can get a nice view of the river.
So that's facing west, or is that the left, 11?
So actually what there'll be is, on the site plan, you'll see there's two buildings. If you have it with the 11th Avenue side down, there is a driveway in the center that would go up, and we would have two units that face, and the fronts of the units would face each other, face the
So
driveway.
this is the front, this is facing the driveway. So they'll be back, they'll be each facing each other.
Yeah, facing each other. So this would be,
So they're facing north and south?
yeah. No, sorry, east and, well,
Oh,
this would be
yeah.
east and west. The ends of the units are north and south.
Okay, I just didn't know what, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, where's the other? Yeah. We had some other. These are all. Okay. Yeah. So, if you basically where these, we currently have two front houses and then these rear buildings. Each unit would kind of line up. The end of the unit would line up with the front of the house and kind of go back. And these are just some pictures with you guys. We don't have a full set for each one of you, but if you want to share them, there's just some aerial shots showing the current what was there. You can, when you're done, you can just pass them down. So what we're looking to do is basically a 3-bedroom townhouse. We have a garage on the first level with basically like a recreation room, bathroom. We're planning to put an elevator in to bring up to the second floor. One thing we're going to do that's a little bit unusual is because of the nice view on the higher floors, we're going to switch the traditional first floor and second floor so that the bedrooms will actually be on the first floor and the living space will be on the second floor, because that way you'll have a view out over the river from your living room. Whereas if we put the living room on the first floor, there would be looking at the back of the 7-Eleven, which isn't necessarily the best view. So, and then the roof deck up on the top. And there should be a copy of this in your packets that I gave you, so you can see it close. So, it's a... Yeah. So Allison, who's on the line here, she is responsible for doing her firm is responsible for doing the 5 townhouses in Asbury Park. They did, I think that's 28 units. Yeah, that's the one in your packet there. They did 28 units, but they're kind of a similar style. That was what kind of inspired us to want to do a similar style. They're a few blocks away from the ocean on, I forget what street that is there in Asbury. They're a few blocks back, and they also did a roof deck so that you can see the ocean from there.
It's on Asbury Avenue, actually.
Asbury Avenue? Okay, yeah. And Kinsley? Or Kinsey? So those units that they built, they did 28 units and they all sold out in the first day that they went on sale. So obviously we think that there's a lot of demand for this style of place. We want to price these because we're kind of sandwiched between a lumberyard, 7-Eleven, and the Marina Tower. We realize it's not like a $1 million beachfront kind of house, but we want to price these so that it would be attractive to possibly someone that's a commuter or blocking the train station. So someone that commutes by train might be a potential buyer of this. We also across from the marina, so maybe someone that has a boat and wants to be close to their boat we feel like even though directly next door we have some kind of undesirable things that most people might not want to live next to, because of the location's proximity to other things, I think it kind of outweighs the downside. So,
Are you going to be providing parking, off-street parking?
So there is no provision for off-street parking other than the garages. So the units, each one has a 2-car garage. So that would provide 16 parking spaces within the garages, which is more than what we have now. So currently, even though we currently have 5 buildings now, But I forget the actual number of bedrooms, but there's actually more, let me think what the number is. There's 4 bedrooms, 4 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 2 bedroom. So it's not that much different in the amount of bedrooms from what we're proposing, even though the units are different configuration stuff, but there actually will be more parking spaces in this new arrangement than what we have currently. Right now, there's a lot of.
But you'll be
people-
having more people also, right?
Well, it depends. We have a lot of, right now, all the 5 houses are currently rented out, and we, currently, with the existing houses, we have, we have 10 parking spaces, and the new unit is, we're proposing 16 parking spaces, so we have a few more. There is also the off-street parking there on the street, and there's like the little parking lot right by near the train station that I know that the current existing people park in.
This is a model of similar, but these do not have the garages.
They do on the back, they do a two-car garage as well, similar.
On the back, okay.
I mean, kind of back
In between the two?
in between the units, yeah, there's a drive,
Yeah, there's
kind of very
there's an
similar
alley behind
layout.
it with,
And they have a 2-car garage in the rear side of
What's your
the,
flood elevation over there?
the flood elevation. We, that would be a question for Bill. All I can tell you is during Hurricane Sandy, we didn't have any water anywhere close to our units. We're actually up on a hill and
That's what I was gonna say,
We're-
I know your property.
we're like a block or so from the water tower, which is probably like the highest point
You're
in
basically
town.
gonna keep that hill, you're not gonna grade it?
Yeah,
down?
we want to obviously keep it as much
And they
healthy as
have
possible.
basements now in that house, so the
Yeah.
lowest floor now would actually be the garage, which is the first floor now.
Yeah, okay.
So it would actually be
Yeah.
almost 2 stories
Yeah, all
up
the
from one
units
basement.
currently have basements and we've never had water in any of
Okay,
them.
that's good, good to know. All your units that you have there are rented now?
They're currently all rented, yeah.
All right, how many families are living there, do you know?
There's 5 families.
Okay.
Actually, there's 5.
One in each structure?
Basically, yeah.
Are you considering any of these new units, are you considering pricing them as affordable housing at all? Are you considering that at all?
Well, I think, I don't know the technical obligations for affordable housing. We want to price them, well, before I answer that question, I should mention one thing. So our family has owned this property, like I said, for over 50 years, and one of our reasons for wanting to do this is we are planning to keep 3 of the 8 units for ourselves. So my parents, my brother, and I are each planning to own one of the units. So I feel like
You're not there now?
we're not there
No,
now.
we
Yeah.
would love to be, but
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
Um,
that's a goal.
But yes, we want to move back to Belmar. My brother and I grew up in the town and moved out when we were started school. But we want to move back. We've been in the area, and we're looking forward to. I mean, I think that the town's done some amazing redevelopment, and it's really it's really a hot place to be, and we
Desirable
want
place to live.
we want to get in on that. So. And another thing too that I should mention is this isn't just a new idea we had. We actually had talked to Mayor Pringle about 10, maybe more than 10 years ago now, about doing a similar thing. At the time, he had different plans for our block and had asked us to hold off indefinitely because I think he wanted to relocate the lumberyard and take our property and said maybe we'd do some kind of swap with some other properties the town owns, and none of that ever came to fruition. But we had been in talks about this, and the project has kind of changed shape and stuff over the years, but this has always been something we've wanted to do. And the current buildings are old and they're a maintenance pit, a money pit, they're constant maintenance. And so we're looking forward to, put something nice and new. But to go back to, sorry, now I've lost my train of thought, but I was answering your question about.
Well, my concern is I know a couple of the families that live there. and
affordable
I
housing.
can't help but wonder what's gonna happen to them.
Yeah,
I mean,
and,
I love your plan, they're beautiful buildings, it's your property.
yeah.
And the fact is, it would definitely be an improvement.
Mm.
But like I said, I know those families back there, and I mean, those kids have grown up there, though. Some of those families, one family in particular, has never lived anywhere else. And
Yeah,
I
sure.
just wonder what's
And
gonna
we've
happen.
been, these, I feel the same way. I mean, we're close to these families. We deal with them all the time. They've been, I have to say, the families that are in there now are the best tenants that we've ever had.
They are.
Some of them have been there for like eight or more years.
Mhm.
So Yeah, and we're gonna work with them. I mean, we haven't told them about this project yet. We don't want, you know.
So we don't know, you know.
But,
we don't know
that's
for
a
sure,
smart thing.
but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's a moral dilemma, and it's something that we've definitely talked about, and, you know, we're gonna try and help them out, but on the other hand, you know, in order to make this financially feasible, we can't, you know, we have to make sure that we can make something, you know, make enough money to at least recoup our costs on it, so.
April, they still have to go before the planning board, correct?
Yes, the TDRC and the planning board.
So their purpose here tonight is just to let us know that they have this, you know, idea of development.
Yes, you're just gonna give them the okay to talk to our redevelopment attorney to start a developers agreement and then move on to TDRC and planning
Do
board.
we have to make a motion for that, or just?
I just, one very quick
Sure.
question. When the structures are built, if and when the perimeter, how are you're butting up against 7-Eleven, a warehouse? Are you having a fence? How are you going to be blocking that off?
So, currently, the buildings on 10th Avenue, 10th Avenue, most of those, they already have fences on the back of the houses. I can show you.
Where, you mean by like next to the lumber
Just
yard?
because you've got
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah,
others.
they're all fenced in.
So these all have fences already existing, and the lumberyard has a fence, and actually 7-Eleven has a fence too. So I guess the existing fences, for the most part, either would stay or maybe we replace them with something nicer, work with the other owners to upgrade that. But there will be some kind of, yeah. I mean, there's the backyard of the Raging Cajun is there, and they have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
And of
back
course, the
there.
lumberyard is just a wall from the side of their building, the entire length of the property line.
But they did put, when they built the new building, the lumberyard there, they put up a fence, a brand new fence, so that's brand new. And so, yeah, we haven't figured out exactly what we're gonna do.
Do they need a motion, or they just wrap this up and, excuse me?
Greg, do they need to make a motion or just say,
Are we referring it to the planning board study?
yes? No, you have to go forward to the TDRC and the planning board.
I make a motion that we send their proposal to the Belmar Planning Board. Do I have a second?
Okay, Councilman Brennan?
You know, I appreciate what you're saying, and I would really hope that I know, whatever you can do to help these people out. I mean, I like the project, really like the idea that you're gonna be here in town. That really definitely changes some of what I was thinking about it. So, but I am concerned about those people, you know, I know them, that's all.
Yeah.
So I'll vote yes.
Okay, Councilman Nicolai?
I agree with Councilman Brennan, but yes.
Yeah, going before the planning board, they're the ones that are gonna,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to sell it to the planning board, and they'll recommend it back to us. They'll probably advise you to make some changes, as I see it right now, especially with off-street parking, but I'll vote yes to send it to the planning board.
Councilman Walsberg?
Yeah, I mean, this is part of our redevelopment zone, and these are the things that we really want to take a look at and have done in that area to improve it. So yes, I'm definitely voting yes.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
The Newmans, are they the family related to the Newmans that go, one of the founding fathers in Belmar?
You got it.
Yes. Yeah, because that's their old area, and they, Mr. Newman, Joshua Newman? Joshua Newman.
Before the
Yeah,
1900s.
sure.
They're on the original maps of the town.
1870s.
Yeah, they were all
Design the
involved
streets.
with the surveying, I think, of the original.
Yeah, you kind of confused me when you said you only had the property for 50 years, but.
That's an error. The family had it for over 100 years.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're,
You figure 1903, the original
Yeah.
buildings were
Yeah,
from right
they're-
around 1903.
You
Yeah.
from like,
so he was one of the people that met in Ocean Grove with Mr. Bittner and Mr. Abrams that formed Ocean Beach.
Oh, wow.
What it was called then.
Yeah, so our family goes back, and we want to make sure we stay here for a while longer.
don't forget about the Historical Society, if you have anything you want to share with them.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have anything in your attic or basement or garage or something
have
like that.
Well, the unfortunate thing is, at one time, our family owned a lot of nice property in town, And they managed to, what? They managed to end up with just this one, though, I mean, not that this is not a nice property, but
But
we're hoping to make it
anytime
nicer.
anybody's renovating an existing, a residential or commercial building, the Historical Society would love you to take photos of like the old knob and tube and the cement and the bricks, because they collect all that information.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
We'll do that. I know the one thing that's kind of interesting is that some of the houses that were built during the Depression reused parts of some of the old hotels that were torn down on Ocean Avenue. And if you go into the basement, you can see like some of the beams have notches and paint on them where they were obviously parts of somewhere else in another building. So,
Nice.
interesting.
Yes?
And you won't find two windows that match things.
And you won't in my house either.
Curbside specials.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Next are petitions. Any petitions for the mayor and council? I don't see any. Next on our agenda are approval of the minutes.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 3rd, 2017 be approved as recorded, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second.
All in favor?
Next are reports of council. Council President McGovern, please start us off with your
I
council.
just have a short report. I just want to mention that the Historical Society's program last week on amusement parks of the Jersey Shore went extremely well. They're going to, the gentleman, Ken Gefkin, who's the author of the book about the lost amusements, is going to be speaking again November 4th at the Belmar Library at 11 o'clock in the morning. So if you missed last Tuesday's program, you get another chance. Very, very interesting. He talked about Belmar, and Bruce Blattner was at the meeting and probably knew as much as the author did about some of the amusement parks in the Jersey Shore. But that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is Councilman Brennan and myself attended the Harbor Commission meeting, and most of the talk was on how we are going to try to market our marina for next summer and try to fill some of those slips. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the last council meeting, I got to talk about school, because we had a banned car wash, which I neglected to announce at the last meeting. And I have to, the kids have to raise money because they take a trip in the springtime. They go and perform. They use the iPlay America out in Freehold, and they have to raise the money to go. So one of the things we do is a car wash. And I have to thank George Comitas for another thing, because he's the one who rustled up all the police cars to come over and get car washed, and the kids had a thrill washing the police cars. That was really exciting. I told them what would happen. You know what's going to happen if you don't do a good job. So, this Saturday is Band Day at Manasquan High School. Our students from Belmar Elementary School are going to be going over. They're going to be performing with the elementary school bands from all the sending districts: Brielle, Mountain, Spring Lake Heights, Seagirt, and Manasquan, and us, with the Manasquan High School band during the football game. They're also going to be participating in a parade that starts before the game. It's a big day, a lot of kids, a long day for the kids. Very excited. If you're around, come down and watch the football game. I've never seen the second half of a Manasquan football game, because I always have to leave right after halftime on the bus with the kids to come back to Belmar, and I can never get back and watch the end of the game. The Environmental Commission, the pilot planting for our dune development project is going to be happening Monday the 22nd and Tuesday the 23rd. It should be a 2-day exercise. They're all going to go in on the north side of the 12th Avenue playground on the beach, and then come around on the eastern corner to see how they do as far as protecting that playground from sand accumulation over the winter. This is a pilot project that we've been working really hard on. The idea would be we're going to look at it in the springtime, see how the plants, how they overwinter, and take it from there. If they do what we think they're gonna do, which is develop a strong root system and have the dunes develop around them without making the dunes too high, so high that you can't see the water, then I think we're gonna move forward, but we have to see. And I gotta tell you, I really have to thank Borough Administrator Connolly for all the work she's put in on this. And I want to thank Maria Shepherd for the original idea of putting something on the beach. She's the one who came to me and said, the beach looks empty, we should do something, and this is what we're trying to do. And one other thing, the recycled bags, we've given some of them out. We're reaching out to the merchants on Main Street. Joe Connor over at Taylor Hardware had about 100, and I saw him the other day, and he's like, give me more bags. And he's going to help us distribute it to some of the other merchants down on Main Street. So, that's it for me. Go Yankees.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, they're
yes,
playing right
yes,
now.
yes.
It's an early game. Councilwoman Nicolai.
I'm just going to touch on the different things. The Belmar Rec Big, we have basketball signups, so please sign up any children that would like to be part of that. The BAC, the Belmar Arts Council, my son actually went Tuesday, they have a class for 8 weeks called Young Rembrandts. And every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30, the children, one project a week, they do an art class, and it's incredible. For my 8-year-old son to enjoy it, it's got to be pretty good. Sunday, October 29th, from noon to 4, October 29th, Sunday, at the BAC is Grape Expectations. Get it? It's the 3rd annual wine tasting, and it's a fundraiser for the BAC. I have to be honest, we've got a board of people at the BAC, which I'm a part of. It's the same people that do all the work and really bust their butt to keep such a beautiful place going. So if you can be part of this fundraiser and help them out, that'd be great. Again, it's noon to 4, October 29th, it's $25, and it's just a day of tasting wine and hors d'oeuvres and looking at some beautiful artwork. Historical Society, don't forget if you have anything to share with them, and shop local. I know we're getting into the fall, winter months, but please remember to just walk everywhere you can in town. You can do everything here. There's very, very few things you can't get done within Belmar. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to give an update? Top of the 8th, and it's 0-0. Oh, sorry, top of the 6th. Top of the 6th. 0-0. First thing I want to point out, I meant to thank him over the last couple of meetings, but he wasn't here. But on Labor Day weekend, we put out boxes and raised, on that one day, $56,000 in contributions for a small, short town in Texas called Rockport, Texas, about the same size as us. The idea was not mine. As a good politician, I claimed it as my own. But truly, the idea came from our Superintendent of the Department of Public Works, Mike Campbell. So Michael, I want to publicly and I ended up delivering a check for $70,000 to the mayor of Rockport, which is going to go a long way there as well. So this week, we had something kind of interesting. A large beer distributor was promoting what was billed as the largest charity bar crawl that Belmar has ever seen. So when I heard about this via social media, I immediately contacted both Colleen Connolly and our attorney, Greg Cannon. By Friday, the bar crawl was canceled. This bar crawl was scheduled for this coming Saturday, but it's not going to happen. And I just want to read a letter, because I think Greg did an outstanding job on this, and this is worth noting because of how the final resolution. So the letter is from McCarter and English. I'm not an attorney, but if you are an attorney, they're a big name law firm here in the state of New Jersey. Mr. Cannon, thank you for taking the time to speak with us on October 12th in connection to your letter addressing our client ShorePoint Distributing Companies, Inc.'s plan to sponsor Bartoberfest on October 21st. My partner and I found direct discussions with you to be extremely beneficial in understanding the Borough of Belmar's position on the planned event. As we advised you in our final conversation that day, once we shared with ShorePoint the borough's larger concerns and the basis from which they arose, ShorePoint immediately decided not to proceed with Bartoberfest. While we may have respective different interpretations as to the scope and applicability of the borough's permit ordinance, The takeaway from last week's discussion is the importance and benefit of having free and open lines of communication between our clients. We are hopeful there will continue to be future open communications for the benefit of both the borough's residents and ShorePoint employees and customers. As always, it is a professional pleasure working with you, and we thank you once again. So I just want to publicly thank Mr. Cannon for his work in this, and receiving a letter like this, shows that you can have disagreements without people throwing temper tantrums, without people suing, as unfortunately is a knee-jerk reaction too often that we've seen in Belmar. So Greg, thank you very much for diffusing the situation. And I will tell you that ShorePoint Distributors reached out to me yesterday, Monday, and I'm going to meet with their president and vice president on Thursday to make sure that moving forward, they understand what Belmar is looking for. As we understand that, they sell, just to get an idea, they sell Miller Lite, Coors Light, and Corona. Those are probably three name brands folks here are pretty familiar with. And so are the bartenders in Belmar who rely on selling those beverages to people who want them so that they can earn those tips to put themselves through college and pay for other expenses. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship that we need to have with ShorePoint Distributors. I'm glad you reached out to us again. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor.
On tonight's resolution calendar, one of the things people are going to see is fencing. And I have no idea how she did it, but somehow, some way, Colleen Connolly was able to get all the fencing from Memorial Field, Silver Lake Playground, 15th Avenue Playground, McCleary Park Playground, done for $75,000.
All that?
All that. That's right, Michael.
Yes,
You guys vetted this company, they're going to be able to do all that for $75,000,
we're doing a demolition, they're gonna build it.
which is remarkable. So as good as those playgrounds look now, once we have this fencing in place, followed up by landscape from the Department of Public Works, I mean, those playgrounds, primarily the ones on 15th and 8th Avenue, are really going to shine in our community. So kudos to Colleen, who's not here with us. I'm not sure if people know why she's missing council meetings, but at my direction, she's taking classes, CFO classes, other classes, so that she's, I believe, going to end up being a better business administrator than she is today, which is pretty remarkable to begin with. The other thing that I just wanted to bring to folks' attention, and again, it's been over the last couple of weeks, particularly starting with the big residence party we had at DJ's. I'm not sure how many people went to it, but it was a mob scene. And just over and over again, whether it's that or emails I've been receiving, people have been saying that Belmar has never looked better. And, whether that's Main Street, the marina, the playgrounds, we have 8 new playgrounds in the last 5 years. 8 new playgrounds. Every playground in Belmar is new in the last 5 years. And also, sort of like the presentation you had today, housing. I mean, it's hard to go down the street in Belmar now and not find a house that's either under construction or under renovation, like Councilwoman Nicolay and her husband. It's pretty remarkable, all the construction that's going on as well, which, I think at this point, it's pretty clear that we as a town seem to really be hitting our stride. And I can tell you, and again, if you look at the presentation today, if you think the town looks good now, just wait. We have even better things on the horizon. That's all for my report. Next is public session for the resolution calendar. Anyone has a comment, question, or resolution calendar, please raise your hand. Wait to be called on, come to the microphone, and talk about whatever you like. Again, this is just for the resolution calendar, not for the ordinance. There is an ordinance on one-way traffic, which people may be interested as well, but that's on the ordinance calendar. This is resolution calendar only. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion of the resolution calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Councilman McGovern, take over.
Thank you. Okay, on the resolution authorizing the payment of bills, I offer that resolution authorizing the payment of bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Aye.
Councilman Luxfer?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes. Next, I offer the resolution awarding fencing at the various parks and playgrounds. As the mayor mentioned, these are going to be for Memorial Field, all the way around Memorial Field, the Silver Lake Playground, the 15th Avenue Playground, and the McCleary Park Playground. Do I have a second for that resolution?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes. Next, I offer the resolution awarding state contract purchase of a Ford F-450 truck with mason dump and a snow plow. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes. And lastly, I offer the resolution of the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Belmar in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, designating property identified as Block 95, lots 5 and 7-13 on the borough tax maps as an area in need of redevelopment, non-condemnation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Thank you, Council President. Next, I'll offer the consent agenda.
Second? I offer it.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Doherty?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
That concludes our ordinance calendar. Next, our resolution calendar. Next, our ordinances. The only ordinance we have on tonight is second reading public hearing ordinance 2017-22, ordinance of the Borough of Belmar amending the revised general ordinances, Chapter 19, traffic, to correct an error in Section 20 through streets and to designate certain seasonal one-way streets as year-round one-way streets per engineering analysis and directives from Monmouth County. Before we start, I just want to ask Chief Heisman, who is still here with us, to sort of rebrief the council on this ordinance.
Mayor and Council, I sat up here 2 weeks ago discussing the DOT guidelines and the restrictions for the size of the roadways through the state. 16th Avenue is not an option. It is being changed one way, or we're losing parking on one side. Currently, the roadways are hazardous because of how narrow they are. The options are to either keep them one way, parking on both sides, or that'd be year-round, or both ways, but eliminate parking on either the north side or the south side. It's the best interest of public safety. It should have been done years ago.
Any questions from the council?
During the winter, would it have been a possibility to have, when there's less traffic, two-way and parking just on one side? And then during the summer season, go back to what we've had, one-way streets?
That's a possibility, but I would caution you, the confusion it would cause on eliminating parking for the winter months.
For the winter months. Is parking that severe in the winter months?
On certain times of the year, it is. There's, it's quite, some of the streets are quite busy.
How does D Street work out? Because D Street currently is two-way, no parking on one side.
Right. And that's primarily due to the...
Right. But do you see any accidents or problems with that? You don't?
No, there's no problems on the roadway at all.
So you don't think it would work? I mean, obviously during the winter months, even during the summer months, they don't have parking there.
I think it would cause confusion, and I would caution the council against that.
You would?
Yes.
And caution why?
I think the number of signs that have to be installed, it would be numerous number of signs. I think that you'd be limiting parking in front of people's houses, guests and everything else would be parking there. I think it'd be very difficult to enforce.
And so enforcement would be difficult? Okay. And the labor of putting up signs?
I think it'd be an extreme cost.
Now, are we talking about, also in this ordinance, It doesn't say anything. Are we going to be adding stop signs?
That's something we have to discuss. We've discussed it, it's not on the table as of right now.
But yeah, it doesn't have to do with this ordinance, but I believe that we've heard pretty clearly from the residents that they want stop signs on B and D for all those streets, which I will move forward on. But again, that has nothing to do with this ordinance.
Right. And Drew, you don't like the speed bumps or humps in the road?
No, they're, the size of the speed humps are 14 foot long. They are noisy. On residential areas, even the county engineers would recommend against them. It's something we've explored in the past.
And you've explored it, and you came up with the decision not to use them?
No.
Okay,
The one place we do have them, Council President, is at the marina.
right.
We put them in a way that they can be removed. It's not in front of residential properties. But I can tell you that if you hear any type of truck go over it, I mean, it is extremely loud.
Those are parking lot speed bumps.
Parking lot.
They're not speed humps that you can use on the roadway.
Good point. Any other questions for Chief?
No, I mean, it's really, it's a choice between either going one way and parking on both sides, or going both ways and parking on one side.
I think is it a premium as it is now.
Just from what I've talking to anybody and everybody, just several things. Safety, I said myself, I've witnessed 2 people going the wrong way because the GPS system's picking it up, whatever, there's no consistency. So I do like the consistency. I think the signage, you don't have to take down, put up, take down, put up. Speed bumps, I know when I see them in different towns, as soon as somebody's over them, they accelerate and take off, so I'm not a fan of those. But I think that with festivals, walkathons, whatever there is in town, off of summer months, that we can't give up the parking. So I am in complete agreement with it.
I mean, I received numerous emails for and against. You know, the one issue that came up was the evacuation route. Our deputy OEM coordinator, Eddie Kirschbaum, is here. He's been in contact with the county to make any changes that are necessary.
All right. I mean, I received those similar emails. I'll be honest with you, the idea that, you know, right now 16th Avenue is labeled an evacuation route, even though it's one way heading east. You know, we have experience with this with the worst storm we've ever seen, so I don't see any challenge getting people out of Belmar if need be.
I agree.
Drew, what about reducing the speed limit from 25 to maybe 20? Would that, any towns ever do that?
That's something that's
Slow down the traffic?
We haven't explored that. I think we're leaning towards the stop signs uniformly across the town, not scattered, so every street's the same, which, again, is our cost, but it's certainly it's certainly something that I believe is doable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, let's open up to any public comment questions on this ordinance. Just raise your hand when you're called on, the microphone, state your name, address for the record. Yes, sir.
Charles Peters, 20219. I'm looking at the routes, and my street is the only street changed. Is that because of DJs?
Let me ask the chief to address that. So 19th, so just so everyone understands, 16th Avenue goes east, 17th Avenue goes west, 19th Avenue currently goes east. Under this plan, it would go west.
West. Basically, that is due to the increase of...
Oh, no, you got, I think you're backwards.
Am I backwards? It goes east.
It currently goes west.
Goes west.
Goes west. I'm sorry, it would change to going
East.
east. Sorry about that. You're right.
And
Thank you.
20th Avenue changed to go west onto North Boulevard. That's to make it easier flow for traffic patterns.
Right.
So
Well-
you're right. So it's odd that 2 streets, right, would be heading,
Change, 20th and 19th.
right, I know, but 18th, let me get this right, 18th is going to head east. 19th is going to head east. So it's odd to have, you're right, 2 parallel streets heading east. And then 20th is going to head west, which right now it heads east. So I asked the chief the same question as to why, because it seems odd to have those two. But in his opinion, it just seems to make more sense for flow of traffic. Which, by the way, if for some reason that doesn't work, because I know there's another street we're looking at, C Street, that some people want to, right now it goes north, they want to reverse, go south. We have flexibility in adjusting that if need be. But you know, it's his opinion that seems to make the most sense.
Well, I'll never be able to ride around North Boulevard to get to my house. Ever again. I'd have to go down 18th Avenue through South Belmar, or cut up through Parkway, or some way, I'd have to cut across to get up to my street. I've been using this for over 30 years.
Where are you on 19th? You said 100?
202. Just, you know, I can't use A Street because I'm past A Street unless I break the law.
Right, so you'd have to go.
Right. I've been doing it for 30 years.
It's not right south.
I mean, I know it's a DJ's issue when somebody doesn't want all the cars going by their house when they go around in a circle. So, you know, now.
Yeah, you're right though, it's like 2 houses away from where, yeah, that's frustrating.
And not only that, I'm going to have lights with this one way shining on my house because it's a bend in the road. And I'm lower than the higher part of the other street. And, you know, it's just an inconvenience. When I bought the house, you know, on two-way street, it wasn't that big of a deal. But if it's going to be one way with all the DJ's traffic, and it's not going to be a 50% cutoff. Now, did you do studies on the right turn on A Street from 19?
No.
Okay, I did. And I'll tell you, 50% of the cars make that right to go down A Street. And it saves me a little bit. Now, everybody from my house, from A Street down to B Street, all those houses are going to have the same problem.
I mean, I guess the one thing you would benefit from, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in the summer, there's not going to be as many people going in front of your house, correct? Because 19th Avenue doesn't go through to Main Street, so you're only going to have local traffic heading east, whereas 18th Avenue you can bring all the way up to Main Street. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Well, I mean, you know, I'm going to have to go through 18th Avenue to get over somehow. That's going to be, you know.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but you live there. I'm saying as far as
I'll be the only guy making the turn, everybody else will go down to the ocean.
That's true, that's true.
So just think of this. I've been driving around Lake Como for 30 years. Looking at the lake, coming, it's nicer drive than going through, you know, like a tobacco road.
Right.
And, you know, fighting head-on traffic to get to my house, you know, whenever I want to get to it. And that's only if I'm coming from the south. I like to go out. You know,
It depends which way you're coming, right?
and now, and then if let's think about if I wanted to go out that way. Well, I guess I could go down and then take one of the rights.
Go down to the ocean.
Right. I mean, no, I can't. I'd have to go down to the ocean and go around and go all the way around that way.
Right.
And go down to 20th. I mean, I don't know who's responsible for that one street being changed. It doesn't seem like it was thought out, especially in my opinion.
Right, right. And again, if it doesn't work, we can always change it.
Yeah,
So-
well,
And I would
You know,
say
once
that's the one street that
it's
you're right.
been that way for 30 years.
Is going to
I mean,
different
as long as
directions.
I've been there.
That one and 20th are both going different directions than they typically would,
Right.
so you're certainly right about that.
I mean, it makes it very difficult for me, and it's going to be less enjoying. It's just like with that berm around the lake. I used to be able to walk around the lake, now I can't walk around the lake.
Because of the burn. Yeah, no, well, and just, we have to build that up to try to mitigate against future flooding.
Yeah, okay.
But hopefully the pipe takes care of that as well.
And that's my 2 cents.
No, thank you.
19th Avenue is only 2 blocks, correct? From Ocean Avenue, it goes about,
We got surf.
well, it's still, but that's cutting those blocks.
It feels like more, but it's 100 and 200.
So could you ever keep that 19th Avenue two-way? That'd be the only one keeping it two-way. way.
So
You wanna address it?
as the council saw over the summer months, we had, and even into the fall, there's many times we had to shut down 19th Avenue due to the increased traffic in the neighborhood. Every Friday and Saturday night and sometimes Sunday, we had to cone off and barricade off 19th Avenue because of the traffic flow was too tight in the neighborhood. If for any reason we did not have the barricades out there by 10 o'clock, we had residents calling headquarters requesting the barricades go out. That is the primary reason for the traffic change on 19th and 20th Avenue. There is no traffic flow down there when it's high influx of traffic.
Very helpful to have you here because as the gentleman explained it right here, trying to envision, it doesn't look like it was that much of a problem. But you coming up to the microphone explaining why you're doing it?
Every weekend, we had to shut down that roadway.
Okay.
The traffic this year is the most I've ever seen.
Here you go. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Woman in the back had her hand up. Before you come up, just want to let you know, Astros 3, Yankees 0. Still on top of us. Ooh! Hearing from all the Mets fans out there.
It used to be. Thank you. She's gonna.
Short people. Thank you, appreciate that. Stephanie Schatzman, live on Surf Avenue in Belmar. The Schatzman family has been in town over 50 years, a lot of changes, and I would like at this time to express to the board and the chief of police on making the one-way streets a permanent ordinance.
And real fast, could you tell us, do you live on Surf south of
I-
20th or north of 20th?
I live on between 18th and 19th. We have lived in the town for over 50 years, and there has been many changes in Belmar. Mainly the influx of people coming in the summer months, unbelievable. They just come in droves. Okay? The south end of town houses the majority of summer rentals, hosts all of the charity runs and walks, and has the majority of day trippers through the summer months. At this time of the year, one-way signs are a necessity in town to prevent anything happening, the safety of the residents, and the safety of the people coming into our town. People coming into town don't care about stop signs, they don't care about the speed limit, and they could care less about one-way streets. This is all summer long. They just don't care. So as the summer comes to an end, we, the full-time residents, look forward to getting our town back, our streets, our sidewalks, and one-way signs down.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I understand who benefits by these signs staying up during the winter, during the fall, and early spring. I don't know who benefits by that. I'm not sure that the board is going to give the south end of town the consideration that we need regarding keeping the one-way street signs up. I don't know why we can't enjoy pulling out of our driveway, going north, south, east, or west, without having to go 2 to 3 blocks out of our way to get where we have to be. You're looking at a 6-month period of time that we're asking for the same benefit that the north end of town has. So I just feel that it comes a time when the board has to consider the south end of town, what the residents at the south end of town would like. And I don't feel that we're getting the full consideration that we deserve, okay? I would like to thank you for your time and for your consideration in this matter. Thank you very much.
So, if you wouldn't mind coming back up, Chief, because I just wanted to be very clear that there's, and I think I can speak for every member of the council, there's no one who wishes to inconvenience folks who live anywhere in Belmar. No one wants to change the way it's been for the last 50 years.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, our chief of police has told us that based on the size of those streets, as they've been measured, that they do not adhere to, I'll let him explain better to me, whatever state guidelines, and that we have an imminent hazard. And our attorney, who's smarter than me, could explain that, you know,
I understand.
we either act on that or not, but if we don't, you know, we're derelict in our duties as governing officials to know that there's a hazardous situation anywhere in town that's been brought to us by our chief of police, and we're not addressing it. But he can explain better to me. So I hope you understand that. But no one, I think I speak for everyone, no one wants to make anyone unhappy in Belmar. No one wants to inconvenience anyone in Belmar. But believe me, I'd rather not be talking about this whatsoever and just taking the signs down. Unfortunately, we can't ignore what our chief of police is telling us. So when people say, well, you know, it's just the south side of town, well, it's the part of town that the streets are too narrow for two-way traffic with parking on both sides any day of the year, not just the summer, but even year-round. So when you start going from 12th Avenue north, just the way the streets are laid out by whoever laid these out many moons ago, they are wider. The one street that's different would be D Street, where it's only, it's either going to be one-way with parking on both sides or two-way with parking on one side, and our chief of police wants to keep it two-way but parking on one side because it's the one north-south street of the lettered streets that runs through the entire town. So I mean, that's not going to make you feel any better.
No.
But I hope that explains it. That, I mean, I think any of us would, you know,
Well,
rather talk about anything
the
else
problem
but
is
inconveniencing residents.
I understand what you're trying to say, but if you go down Surf Avenue now, if you see 4 cars parked on the street, you see a lot. There's no cars on the street during the winter months. So what is determined the factor that we have to keep it one way? There are no cars on the street in the winter months.
Right,
They're
that's-
just not there.
That's where I'll let the chief explain that it's again, it's not as if Belmar can say, it's okay to have this size street and have parking on both sides with two-way traffic. We're not permitted under state law to do that. We don't have that, we're not allowed to. But he can better explain what he's referencing on a state level. So chief, could you explain for everybody, please?
Surf Avenue is probably the narrowest street that we have in town. It's roughly 26 feet wide. DOT standards, if you had 11-foot minimum per roadway, you're at 22 feet with 8 feet of parking. To leave Surf Avenue, two-way traffic, you would have to eliminate parking on both sides of the street according to DOT standards. I would recommend against that because parking is a premium.
Understand.
It's pretty cut and dry.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hello, I'm Christine Carlino. I live on 15th Avenue between D and E. I spoke a couple weeks ago. Does the borough attorney or the chief of police have...
Just got to address all the questions through the chair. So
Okay, sorry. How many times has Belmar been sued in the past for not having the streets wide enough when it's been two-way with two-sided parking?
How many times have we been sued in the past?
Yes.
I would fathom to say I don't think we've been sued at all.
And how many, where's the accident data that shows the need for the year-round one-way? I know the streets aren't wide enough, but...
And I remember this from not you, but
Yeah.
someone else asked this, you know, was there a traffic study done?
Or have they analyzed the
right,
accident
there's-
data from historical police
Right,
records?
you're assuming that we have the ability to make that decision. The street is only so wide. The state guidelines are X, Y, and Z. That's it. We could prove that there's never been an accident on 15th Avenue ever in the history of the street, and it still is too narrow for two-way traffic with parking on both sides. So it doesn't, we're not going to do a study on something that, because the state doesn't care what we think. The state has their guidelines, and it applies to all towns. So I know someone brought up Ocean Grove. It doesn't matter. It applies to all towns. If a town is told that they have a hazardous condition and do nothing about it, they put the liability on the town. I mean, it's got to be off the charts. Could you explain that?
Title 59, if you're not aware, so this problem really arises when the county decided to take a measuring stick to their road. So now they know that theirs is smaller, and that's their jurisdiction, and their engineer absolutely mandated, and it's their road, that it's going to be one way. And we basically, at that point, leave all the other ones the same at our own peril. Since the last meeting, I know people talked about the standards, so that we went to the Uniform Traffic Manual. I was trying to find an exception, to be honest with you, so that we didn't have to do all this, right? And the administrative code, it's 5:21, has all of the development standards for residential sites. And essentially, the lowest that I could possibly find was 7-foot parking lanes and a 16-foot traveled way, which is 30 feet. And none of the south end streets meet that. So now that so ignorance is bliss, pretty much for a municipality. You know, if you don't know, the rusty spike is in the playground, and this might be crazy to the law this way, but we don't know that, and a kid, you know, falls on it, we're not liable under Title 59. But the moment that we know about it, that immunity goes away. So that's really the issue here, is when the county took their measuring stick to the road, and then our roads aren't any different, you know, you basically leave it the same at your own peril. For every person that goes down the road, knocks their mirror off, and sends a tort claim notice to the town, you're paying for everybody's mirror, pretty much. Happens oftentimes on the parkway when sometimes the contractor set up the lanes wrong, boom, they're paying for every, 2,000 flat tires. You know, if they didn't know about it, it'd be fine, but, you know, the first person that calls in who's broken down, and the 1,900 people after them right over it, then the turnpike authority is liable. That's the best example I can give you just on top of my head. That's really what the issue is, and I tried to find a way around it, but, I mean, it says, I'll show you, 7 and 16. That's the smallest that I could find, 30 feet, and all of them are less than 30. That's the administrative code, so.
So again, how many accidents, how many cars are parked on each side, you know? Unfortunately, none of it can prevent us from acting on making a change to the streets that are from 13th Avenue South.
Our preference would be two-way in the winter with one-sided parking for the winter only. Please consider that.
Thank you.
Can we at least try it and then revisit it as you said?
Yes, sir.
My name is Rocco Cavalucci. I live at 318 10th Avenue. First, I'd like to commend you for standing up to the alcohol people and getting rid of that bar crawl. No more bacchanalian revelry than necessary in Belmar. Great. I live at 10th Avenue and C Street. I hear people talking about 13th Avenue South. You sent a letter out with our water bills and you said 13th Avenue South. Today, when I called Public Works about the one-way signs on C Street, I was told that was up for discussion tonight. I contacted the borough clerk, and she also said that C Street was one of the streets up for discussion. Is that being discussed to keep it one way, or are we just talking about 13th Avenue South? Because I know those streets are very narrow.
I believe the idea is to keep 13th Avenue, or C Street one way as well. Is that on this ordinance or not?
It is. It is. Chief might know better than me off the top of his head.
13th Avenue, C Street. C Street is the one that we discussed. We had a lot of calls from the residents possibly changing it, the direction. And that's something that we still need to discuss on C Street.
Right, but as far as keeping it one way.
Year-round.
This ordinance would keep it one way year-round, correct?
Entire length.
The entire length, correct? You're right, sir.
Northbound, the entire length.
Right.
There's been a lot of calls.
And again, we've been approached to folks that want to change it to southbound.
I'm a folk. I want to change it to a two-way. I see this as a ridiculous inconvenience to the people in town. We've had these streets forever. We can't change the streets. We can't change the width. I understand that. These streets should be godfathered in. They were okay a couple of months ago, and now all of a sudden we find out that our streets are not okay, and everybody in town has got to find a different way home. Well, not the right thing to do.
And it's a good idea, C Street.
And C Street is a wider street. C Street is probably wider than 13th, I would suspect it is.
And
it's not a fire engine route. I was a
Well, I
fire
was gonna say,
engineer. It's not on the
C-Street-
map. It's a fire route. I drove fire trucks in town for 8 years. It's not on the
Thank
route
you for
map.
that.
It's not a route map for the first aid. It's not an accident street. The only accidents I ever see on C Street on my corner, including a fatal when I was a kid, 2 kids on a bicycle, summertime accidents. I don't recall seeing any in the winter. 9th Avenue and C Street, I see accidents there once in a while, not in the winter. no reason to inconvenience the people, at least between 12th Avenue and 8th Avenue, which is a very low traffic section of the street. It doesn't intersect with the narrow streets. In fact, it crosses the widest streets in town, which I think are 10th Avenue and 8th Avenue. No reason to change that. I think it should be struck in the ordinance. I think it should be left the way it is. Come October 15th, take down those one-way signs. I don't see the reason to inconvenience me, my driveway's on C Street, or my neighbors with those 4 short blocks.
Well, you said 318.
10. My
And
driveway's
your
on C
driveway's
Street.
on C Street. And C Street heads north.
Right.
So right now, you would get on that and then take it to 9th Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay, and then get out of town that way, whichever way you're going.
It's inconvenient in the summer, but I understand why. If you're going to save parking for all the summer visitors, you've got to have it one way. But you can go out there right now, and there are probably 4 cars parked there. There's just no need to change that. Absolutely no need to change it.
And I would say, again, I'm sorry to repeat myself, no one, trust me, there's no sane member of any council anywhere that would do something to make traffic more challenging for any resident of any town. And certainly, the 5 of us, I think, are in agreement on that. The only reason we're discussing this is because, again, our chief of police thinks that for public safety reasons, this is the best idea. And once he brought it to our attention that the streets are too narrow, again, no matter how many cars are on there, now how many residents are on there, or how many accidents there may be, D Street goes north and south, A Street goes north, B Street goes south, and then C Street goes north. So that's why it goes north. Could we look at making it north and south with parking on one side? I mean, I guess, but I think that, parking's a premium, particularly in the summer, and to make it one-way year-round with parking on both sides.
Well, respectfully, I'm not concerned with what happens in the summer. I'm concerned with those of us who are residents of the town, who are once again being, inconvenienced for the winter months. And respectfully disagreeing with brother officer, especially when as a police chief, there's no safety problems on C Street. There are none. There's not enough cars there to make it unsafe. There's ample room, even with cars parked on both sides, it's one way. There's not enough traffic there to prevent a fire engine from going down there. As I said, many years ago, I drove fire engines down that street. It can be done, it's not a problem.
And maybe I apologize, I wasn't clear. It's not the chief's opinion that it's not safe. It's his reading of the state statute that says what the size of the road needs to be for two-way traffic with parking on both sides. Now, given that, his opinion is, look, let's make it all one way with parking on both sides. Suits the town better public safety-wise as opposed to two-way with parking on one side. Now, I understand you're not as concerned in the summer months, but more in the winter months, and there's more winter months than there are summer months. But we are, we're a community that draws a lot of people in the summer, always have been, always, I think always will be. So it makes sense for me to listen to the chief of police when he thinks that that's the best idea for public safety reasons. I hope that, again, it's not the answer you want, but I hope that explains.
It doesn't, and it seems to me that we should be searching for something in the Uniform Traffic Control Manual or something that would grandfather these streets in, because we're certainly not the only community with narrow streets. I'm not sure if we're the only one that's going to these extremes to make them all one way so that they somehow conform. I don't know that we need to pass this ordinance right away without somebody, the attorney, searching for some kind of way to godfather these streets in. It's just absolutely wrong to do this to the people. And my neighbors did this other than the town, I don't even know.
Yes, sir. Have you looked at that, and whether you can grandfather?
Grandfather.
Godfather. That's totally different. Grandfather in,
No, I mean, the hazardous conditions, You can't grandfather hazardous conditions.
Mayor, when I spoke to the county engineers reference to 16th Avenue, there is no godfathering in for the DOT statute.
Grandfather.
Grandfather.
you're not going to say Godfather. There's no Godfathers in Dublin.
If that was the case, 16th Avenue wouldn't be the issue and the ball wouldn't start rolling.
I don't think the county has any concern with the citizens of Belmar or Como, and I think we're just getting it stuck to us again here. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. Yes, ma'am.
18th and B one-way, 18th one-way. Parking on my driveway's on B Street, so I'm used to the inconvenience of the one-way on B Street.
But your house is on 18th.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the corner, yeah.
Correct, gotcha.
But that's been forever, no problems. The consideration of Snyder facing north versus south, considering the fact that B goes south, Surf goes south, Snyder goes south, from 17th to 20th, or to North Boulevard, we got 3 streets going south. I know
So what you're saying is, what about reversing Snyder to have it go north?
Correct. Food for thought, okay? I was happy to hear about 19th, to be honest with you. I'm sorry that it didn't work for you, but it does help me.
Well, we're on the record, so I appreciate that. But if you don't mind, do you have anything else you want to say? I'm sorry.
The only other thing I would just want to say is that I think that everyone is in agreement with the summer and the one-ways and crowds and parking on both sides. We need that, okay? But everyone that is opposed to the winter, no one's fighting with safety. Everybody wants safety, but everybody wants a little bit of a compromise. Compromise with the two-way parking on one side. That's all. Thank you.
Can I ask you to come back up to the microphone for one moment? This gentleman. And I'm sorry, just take your name now just for one.
Chuck Peters, 202 19th.
Would it matter to you if Snyder was northbound?
I could ride around the lake.
All right. So that would make it easier for folks that live on 19th Avenue.
Right. I mean, still, I don't know why. I've never seen problems with 19th Avenue. I was out on Lake Porch in the summer. Day and night.
Understand. All right, but I just wanted to see if that would actually benefit, if you
Well,
thought.
I mean, it's better than,
Understand better
coming
than-
from Parkway and coming up 18th and all that.
Got it. I think that's something definitely, and again, I know we have plans for C Street, but I think Snyder is definitely worth looking into, considering how many streets are already going south.
Start next Lord, and I can get back to you.
Yeah, Claire, thank you for that suggestion. Yes, ma'am.
Florence Tedesco, 203 Surf Avenue. I'm just looking for a point of clarification. Through streets are 2 directions? Yes? No? On the sheet?
They would all be one direction.
No, through streets refer to the streets, and Chief, please jump in if I'm wrong. They refer to the streets that do not have stop signs on them, so the traffic continues onward.
Okay.
Just through the town.
Okay.
Whereas the
thank
other
you.
streets that intersect with those, the stop signs are the other way.
Yes,
It's
I
like a
do.
traffic
Yeah,
flow
yeah.
issue more than
Thank you.
a directional issue.
On the sheet here, I thought I heard that 20th was going to be westbound. It's eastbound on this sheet. So you're going to have 18th east, 19th east.
20th, the old, sorry. Right now, currently, 18th is eastbound, 19th is westbound,
Correct.
20th is
Eastbound.
eastbound.
Correct.
We're gonna, it should say that 18th is eastbound,
18th is east.
19th is eastbound, and 20th is west.
Okay, because it doesn't say that on
We
here.
will make sure our attorney has that correct.
Okay, and I'll be riding around with that other gentleman trying to get to Surf Avenue,
So you live on Surf
south of 20th.
south of 20th.
South of 20th, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get there.
So you would, you would get home if you took, right, if you're like him, you want to drive around Lake Como, then you.
But I can't come in that way.
No, but-
Because Surf Avenue is going to southbound.
No, I'm saying, well, if you're
So I
going home,
can't
you could
come
make
in.
a left on, because he can't make a left on A, but you can make a left on A, make a right, I don't know. You have to go to Ocean.
I don't know.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to find some way to get to the ocean and then come back in again.
The Ocean.
Huh?
You'd have to go to Ocean Ave, correct, and then go 20th west.
Yeah, so
Well, no, he can't do that.
I'll meet you riding around.
Yeah. I'll send the DJ's gang to you.
No, thank you.
So he has to go east. Right, thank you. Some questions? Let me try some guys to spoke in. Yes?
Be cold. She's from Lake Como.
She was the Yankee Stadium.
So sorry, it's
At
freezing
one-
up here.
119 18th Avenue.
I'm listening, Pat.
Sorry.
I meant. I understand that we have to do, Drew, what the county said. I understand that. But you also have to understand, we on the south side get dumped on all summer long. It's a horror. And Mrs. Schatzman is right. We just can't move. Drew, is there any way we can do some kind of compromise, even if you can give us a break, like just for a couple of months in the winter? When we get a code red call that all the cars have to be off the street because of snow and we're going to plow, cars that don't have a driveway use the driveways of people who aren't there. So how do you think they get the cars off the road? So what's the problem going to be if we park on one side of the street and have our two-way? Even if you give us 3 or 4 months, just give us a break. And like Chuck said, I'm riding around the corner to get into my driveway. I have to go 3 and 4 blocks around. And the one-ways, it's a highway, 18th Avenue, 40 miles an hour is nothing.
So what if there's a walk?
And again, that's one of the things that was brought up at the last meeting was additional stop signs and also, beefed up enforcement. Those two things we can do, they have nothing to do with the ordinance though. So what your question is, as far as having two-way at sometimes, the cars on one
Just give
side
us
and
a
then go
little
back and
break.
forth.
Yeah, and can we take, instead of the one-way street signs going up when they do, maybe put them up a little earlier, we can live with that, put them up the 1st of May, the end of April, but just give us a couple of months where we don't have to make illegal turns on A Street to get into my driveway, or ride all around the block.
Well, don't do that.
We don't know you do that.
Well, there's nobody there.
You don't do that.
I watch.
Definitely not, I know.
Yeah, but don't.
You don't do that.
We love seeing you, you don't want to
No.
head on collision, don't do that.
But and Mrs. Schatzman's right, Chuck's right, 19th Avenue gets very narrow as you go past Snyder and you get up, it's really narrow. And they still speed. My daughter's on the corner of B and 19th, and it's still a highway. These people just don't
Right.
slow down.
And don't worry, again, I'm speaking for myself, and I'm gonna go on a limb and say on behalf of the council, we agree. We agree with everything people are saying. But that's not a choice anymore.
I know, I understand that
So
the
the
county
choice
requires
is
it.
really, it's a binaural choice. We can either do one way with parking on both sides of all these streets year-round, or two-way with parking on one side year-round. The chief is, for public safety reasons, doesn't want to flip back and forth.
So there's never going to be that break in the summer, so it's going to be 12 months a year, one way or the other. This is it. So
That's sort of
there's
the choice-
going to be
that's
no
the
more,
choice.
that's
really
basically
the-
it. So we have no
that's the
choice
police
in the
choice we
south
have.
end. Okay, then that's basically, we don't have much of a choice where we are. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Yes, sir. Barely so you gotta get the hand up higher.
My name is Adam Crimmins, I live on 13th Ave, and I'm all in favor of the one-way streets, all year long. I do think it's a problem making it two-way, because I find many times people just don't yield when you have cars parked on both sides of the streets and someone's coming out the block, and I'm trying to back out of my driveway, and then I gotta pull back in again because they're ready, there's no room for me to move past them. I do think that certain streets like Snyder, Surf, ones that go north-south, they don't get much traffic. So I think that it would be a good idea to make them two-way in the wintertime and take down the one-way signs, and then even have parking on both sides of the street, because they just don't have that much traffic.
Thank you. Seeing no more comments, questions, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 2017-22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll offer and move for adoption, ordinance 2017-22.
Second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
You know, I want to thank the chief for his diligence in looking into this matter and bringing it up to us after the county made their move. I mean, he's right, and Mr. Cannon's also right. We can't do nothing. That being said, and with all due respect to the chief about his concern about how confusing it is, I'm not sure, I don't see why we're not looking into the option of two-way traffic with one-side parking during the winter. It's clear that the residents that are here are in favor of that. As the mayor said, I mean, we could always try it, and if it turns out to be a real problem, then we can say we tried it, and we can do it one way year-round, but to not at least give the residents a chance to try something like that, I just don't see that as responsive government. I think, you know, it seems like if we do that, then we're covered as far as our liability, because we made the appropriate action, that we are not just leaving the situation as is. We're taking into account the narrowness of the streets, and we're making appropriate moves. Will there be confusion? Absolutely. But we've already heard that in the summertime, people disregard the streets anyway, and they're one way. You know, and the stop signs are there, and they disregard them. And, you know, that kind of thing is just going to happen. We wanted to make sure we could do whatever we could to avoid it. And I think that to just do one way year round, I don't think it's fair to the residents on the south side of town, so I'm going to vote no.
It's a tough one, because I've asked countless number of people their opinions over the last few weeks, and everybody, because wherever they live, they've got a different opinion, the way that affects them personally. I am about consistency. We obviously all want safety. It's a tough one. I don't know what, if you do parking on one side and you've got, it's off season, but there's a walkathon or there's a festival or whatever, I don't know how people feel about the parking being limited. You know, it's obviously not the summer months, but haven't heard anybody say what that's going to be like if it's got the two-way with one side closed. I just have to say that 99% of the people that I talk to are concerned about parking. So I'll vote yes.
So like I said, this is nothing any of us want to discuss, because we're going to make a lot of people unhappy. And I would tell you, if you're going to be unhappy, you know, be unhappy with your mayor, not with your council members. I'm going to vote yes.
Councilman Osborne?
Yeah, being a police officer for 25 years, and I've worked closely with Chief Heisman on traffic, and we've talked about it for years, keeping it one way because of the issues that we always had over the years. Are the changes like on the surf, were we voting for the changes, or?
You mean,
Schneider, yeah.
Not in this ordinance, but
we're going to change them in the future, because maybe we can take a look at that.
it seems to make sense, because if you already have enough streets going south, why not have that one going north?
Yeah.
But again, that's something that was brought up tonight.
People in that area must have engineered their streets to be wider. The people from 13th Avenue South was still Wall Township when 1st to 12th was Belmar. Then when they later ceded from Wall Township, the residents from that area, for some reason, must have narrowed their streets. That's why your streets are more narrow. There's nothing we can do about that now. Now, I have looked to see if there are some ways to help you out. I can imagine the inconvenience, but I'm going to have to defer to the expertise of our attorney and to our police chief and vote yes for this, one way, year round.
All right. That's all for our ordinance calendar. Next is public session. Public session is very simple. Raise your hand, wait till you call on, come to the microphone, name and address for the record, and you can talk about what you want for 5 minutes. And the current score is 4-2 Astros in the bottom of the seventh. Yes, sir.
You want to hear me? I'm going to read from this.
Just name and address.
Sure. Josh Valerio, 407 10th Avenue. My following comments are not about politics and in no way a media ploy. They are about being a good human and standing up for what is right. I witnessed an inhumane act this past weekend, an act that was done purely out of spite and an effort to throw one last jab at a deceased woman. A woman who fought tirelessly for what she believed in and for the town of Belmar. Although a challenger of this administration, she still deserves respect, especially since she donated her final days standing up for fellow residents and her convictions. It is disrespectful for anyone, especially those in a position of power, to proactively thwart a family's grieving process and deny that family closure to their deceased loved one's life. This weekend's tree planting ceremony for Joy DeSantis was not about politics. It was about her oppositions. It was not about her oppositions to some of the decisions that were made by the administration. It was about her husband, her children, and her friends to come together and pay homage to her life and try to find peace and closure for themselves. For anyone to stand in the way of that and use a technicality is just plain wrong. I ask you to reflect on your actions and really ponder if this is how you would like someone to treat your family. If this was your mother, your sister, your brother, or your wife, how would you feel? Now, with that in mind, please judge your decision to roadblock this past weekend's ceremony and ask yourself why. Perhaps if more attention is paid to understanding motive, better decisions can be made going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody? Yes.
Katrina Klapsis, B Street. On January 16, 2017, public advocate and community organizer Joy DeSantis passed away after a 3.5-year battle with pancreatic cancer. As she fought for her life in private, Joy also fought another battle here in public in Belmar. Joy fought this battle not for her own aggrandizement, not to see her name in the paper, and not to see herself on television. She did not crave accolades. No, Joy fought for the residents of Belmar for what she believed was right and just. Joy had an uncanny ability to rally the people around her and organize them for their cause. She was fearless, and she made those around her fearless also. Her favorite saying was, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Soon after her passing, Joy's daughter, Angela's sorority sisters from the University of Delaware contacted Brian McGovern about planting a tree on Silver Lake for Joy. Brian, council president and Shade Tree Commission member, worked with them through emails because none of the sorority sisters were local to Belmar. In a January 27th email, Brian told them that the planting was approved at the Tree Commission meeting the night before, and never did he mention a permit was needed. Joy's husband Carmine walked to the lake with Brian, and they picked out the best spot, and Brian marked it. The date was set for October 15th, which was this past Sunday. The sisters, one who came as far away from Germany, they all came to help their friend Angela and her family and friends celebrate the life of this amazing woman. On Friday, October 13th, Carmine got a call from Brian McGovern telling him Mayor Doherty refuses to allow the tree planting. Matt says a resolution must be presented to the mayor and council and that a permit must be granted to plant a tree. He refuses repeated attempts to work a solution out so the planting can go forward. Instead, he tells Councilman Walsper that the DPW will rip out the tree on Monday morning. Everyone in Belmar knows that Joy DeSantis was a thorn in Matt's side. We all know that Joy was a catalyst in multiple lawsuits, all of which our mayor called frivolous and all of which he lost. Joy spearheaded the fight to stop the two-story pavilions. She helped prevent the ordinances that would have forced the use of only labor, union labor, and would have changed our pay-to-play laws to benefit Matt. She ran the petition drive so residents could have us vote on the special election to stop the borough from borrowing over $7 million to rebuild the Taylor Pavilion. She sued, and the borough's wording on that special election ballot question was found to be misleading and prejudicial. This list goes on and on. And through it all, Matt called her and those she rallied the element obstructionists and even terrorists, going as far as telling her he would go around, over, or through her. Though this plan was in the works for 9 months, and the sisters followed the instructions in good faith given by the representative of Belmar, Matt Doherty waited until he knew the 72-hour window for the permit could not be met. Now, Matt will tell you he didn't know about it, but I tell you I find that hard to believe. He says the rules must be followed for everyone. We, of course, know the rules do not apply to Matt Doherty. He didn't get a resolution when he allowed a friend to land a helicopter on public property. When he decided that the beach would be free on Labor Day weekend, the resolution came after. The list of council votes that happened afterwards, after the fact, goes on and on. Instead, Matt, in my opinion, proved what a cruel, vindictive little man he really is. Thank you, Mark Officer, for trying to help. Brian, I'm sorry to say that you proved yourself incompetent in this situation. To Tom Brennan and Jennifer Nicolai, I say this. Maybe you didn't know about this, but if you didn't know about this, this only proves that you are not in the loop and things are not discussed with you. But if you did know, you're complicit to this cruelty. So Matt, I believe your intention was to make Joy's family suffer. Congratulations. You did just that. But hear this. Joy DeSantis is still inspiring people, now probably more than ever, to stand up for what is right and just.
Thank you.
Carmine DeSantis, 101 6th Avenue. I think I have to read something because this has been such an emotional weekend for me and my family. First, I want to thank Josh and Trina for outlining what has transpired over the past couple of
Carmine,
years
a little louder.
regarding my wife and this particular insult made against my family. Mayor, everyone knows that my wife Joy disagreed with you on many issues. And as Trina outlined, she and her group won many lawsuits against you in the town. At one meeting, you threatened her, we let that go. A porta potty was placed in front of our house, and we let that go. But this latest stunt is the worst yet. You have intentionally inflicted emotional distress on myself, my children, and all of Joy's close friends here in Belmar. So if that makes you feel good, enjoy the moment. Now, I would like to address the email that was sent by the borough attorney on Friday concerning the tree plantings. In the first, second, and fourth paragraph, he talks about getting permission. But permission was granted, going back to January. Brian even notified Colleen Connolly in January. So the permission was given. In the third paragraph, he talks about religious monuments. There was not going to be any. He never mentions in his letter or email that a resolution must be passed before a tree can be planted. Brian and I walked the intended planting area, talked about soil amendments, watering, and care. Never once did he mention a permit. In fact, he and no one else ever heard of it. The bottom line, permission was given and granted going back to January 2017. If a permit was needed, the sorority sisters, they would have gotten one. As a side note, I walked into Borough Hall Monday morning to ask for such a permit. But they never heard of a permit to plant a tree. And April actually had a researcher indicating no one had ever gotten a permit just to plant a tree that she could recall. We're not talking a monument, a plaque, and garden like my friend Jane McGovern has. We were just planting a tree. A beautiful tree, actually a crepe myrtle, that would have flowered in the summer with clusters of rich purple flowers that would make the landscape around the lake nicer. Again, I believe this is pure vengeance on your part, as you came in at the 11th hour to cause us alarm and distress. Brian also said he spoke to Colleen. I already said that. But I called Colleen on Friday and left a message on her voicemail, but she never returned my call. I saw her again in the borough yesterday morning. She didn't say anything to me. And just as a final note, Ordinance 31-2.3 says the Shade Commission states that they should have full and exclusive control over the planting and care of shade and ornamental trees and shrubbery now in Belmar. So what is preventing this tree from being planted? No resolution. The ordinance clearly states the Shade Commission has control. I'd like to know what the problem is. Thank you, Mark, for your efforts, and Brian, thank you.
Well, I will address it. There's two parts to it. One, the tree needs a permit, and two, my understanding, there was going to be a plaque involved as well, and that's what we need permission from the mayor and council. Any other comments, questions?
Not long ago, Belmar lost a beautiful, loving, caring woman before her time. Her name was Jane McGovern, and Jane McGovern personally helped my kids, many other kids in town, and upon her passing, it was decided upon the mayor and council to have a beautiful memorial in her honor. In fact, Brian, you remember outside the church one day, excuse me, I was asked by friends whose son was receiving his first communion, he couldn't be there, to run over and take a picture. And Brian and Jane were there. And when I asked Jane, and Brian if they had any kids, they said no, Jane just loved kids. And that just spoke volumes of who she was and how deserving she was of a memorial. Belmar then lost another beautiful, loving woman, caring for her family and her community also. Her name was Joy DeSanctis. And I had the pleasure of attending a service for her in which many people who care very deeply about it both showed up and wanted to plant a tree. I understand there was some problems in perhaps seeking and getting the right approval. It seemed to me from what I had heard that they had gone through the right channels and gotten approval from the authority on planting a tree in Belmar. But if that's not the case, but what I'm here to do is implore Council President Brian McGovern to see to it that a permit and an allowance for planting this tree in memorial of Joy is allowed and goes forward. Because it's truly fitting. She was a very caring, wonderful person. She cared about the community. We don't have to all agree, but I think that we should agree on that. And so my request, I know I'm supposed to address the chair, Mayor Doherty, but I am addressing Council President McGovern to personally see to it that this permit is granted and that this tree is planted in light of the efforts that were made. Thank you very much.
And just to be clear, all permits go through code enforcement. No members of the council approve or disapprove permits.
So they go through code enforcement. But I can't see where it wouldn't be helpful to have a council president, who is also the president of the Shade Tree Commission, weigh in on behalf of an application such as this. It can't hurt, could it?
I'm not saying it's going to hurt or help either way. I'm just saying that all permits, none of them are done by any member of the council or myself. They're all done by code enforcement.
Well, I think if our Borough Council President, Mayor Doherty, would like to see a permit issued for the planting of a tree, as both Borough Council President and Shade Tree Commissioner, I think it would help tremendously. And I implore
Mike, I'm
my
sure if someone
council
fills out
president to do so.
Sure, if someone fills out a permit for it, code enforcement will probably issue it without anyone interfering at all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, I would just like to explain to everybody in the room, say, he's taking a shot, it looks, look bad up here, because I am council president, and perhaps I should have known that the mayor and council would have to pass a resolution for a tree to be planted in public property. I did not know that.
That's not the case.
As Shade Tree Commission President, I was all for planting a tree at the lake, and yes, they did get permission from the Shade Tree Commission to plant a tree at the lake. However, we would have needed the permission from the mayor and council first, which again, I did not know
Plant
that.
a tree, you need every tree in
Yes,
town.
sir.
You have to
You're
get-
not gonna call out from the audience, you're gonna remove it.
Gene Claps, 1304 B Street. That might be the case, Brian, but if you see something going wrong with this, you stand up and say, I made a mistake, we're planting a tree, we're all getting together, and we're moving on this, for this family. Permit for a tree, no permit for a helicopter? Come on, do the math, do the math, look in the mirror, do the math. And if you can look in the mirror and be conscious about the fact that you need a tree, permit for a tree, and you can't get it in one day, and you're the president of the Shade Commission, and you're the president of the council, you can't say, okay, listen, we messed up here, we're gonna make good on this deal here, for this fella here. It doesn't make sense. How can you have one without the other? How can you land a helicopter, which is dangerous, without a permit, and then say no to this fella here who went through the right channels, and you messed up, you made a mistake, but you made good on it. End of story. There's no excuse. There's no excuse.
Just so we're all clear, I mean, there's an ordinance in effect that requires a permit. This comparison to a helicopter
When you landed the helicopter, was
is
there a permit?
completely disanalogous, so.
When you borrowed the money off the
You wanna
beach,
get-
when you took the beach money,
Chief.
did you then get a permit?
Thank you.
Did you vote on that resolution afterwards, Mayor Doherty?
Chief.
That's what I want to know to you right now.
There is no-
Take me out, lock me up, because you people all ought to be damned ashamed of
You
yourselves.
continue your behavior, you're gonna be
Did you
arrested.
even know
Let's
that
go,
that was
man.
happening?
Come
Mr.
on,
Brennan, Ms. Nicolai, did you even know while you were around the corner drinking
Ma'am.
with your buddy on Saturday night? Did he tell
I'm
you
gonna
that?
count to 10. If you don't stop, you're gonna be arrested.
I don't
okay?
care if you
Okay.
arrest me.
I think you're going to.
You people should be ashamed of yourself. Mayor Doherty, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm sorry. I need my pocketbook. I don't care. Take me to jail. You people are disgusting. Disgusting.
And you have a bunch of shit.
Disgusting. I'm sorry. Disgusting. You. Disgusting.
It's corrupt.
Stop that.
So corrupt.
You said that the code enforcement has to approve the permit, but the permit says that it should be acknowledged by someone from the Shade Tree Commission. Nothing about code enforcement, just signed off by the Shade Tree Commission. And I don't know why it wasn't done. Was it done?
They are disgusting.
Not yet.
Clearly, we're gonna move on. See no other public comment questions, I'll make a motion to close the public portion and adjourn.